This is the Apparelist podcast, designed to bring you real-life conversation about high-level topics relevant to the decorated apparel community.
What is up, apparel decorators? It is absolutely crazy to think that we're sitting here today recording the second to last episode of 2023, November 2023. It feels really weird to say that. When we launched this podcast, it was with really high hopes that we could provide all of you listeners with expert insight into topics like better company culture, implementing sustainability practices, and more. I have to be honest with all of you, this has wildly exceeded my expectations. I really feel throughout the journey that this podcast has been on that we've covered everything from, how to determine the best decorating practices, how to protect your business from cybersecurity attacks, even how to add hard goods to your services. All of these topics have been so rock solid. And a huge reason why this podcast has done so well is because of our amazing guests, like the guy joining me today. Y'all know David Clifton, Chief Marketing and Customer Experience Officer at alphabroder. He and alphabroder have been just awesome partners to work with on this podcast. David and his team have spoken on some of the most important topics decorators need to focus on. And today, of course, that is the case. We're talking about how to close out Q4 with a bang. We'll talk about some basic business practices, but also how holiday orders and corporate programs and things like that all play a role in having a successful end to your year. So welcome back, David.
Thank you very much, Cassie. Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. As always. Hey, we love having you guys on this podcast. And I have to say, finally got to see David again in person at Printing United Expo a few weeks ago in Atlanta. Always fun to catch up with you guys in person.
Yeah, I thought Printing United was a fantastic event. We were glad to be there, and it was awesome. It was pretty incredible to see the scale of that event and all the machinery and everything else and all the equipment and all the advance and the technology that's going on. It's amazing. It's a unique event for us, and we're glad to be there and glad to be working with you guys so closely. It's a great event though, because it really, for us, it's a different conversation than we normally have, because these are not typically in mass apparel decorators. They are decorators of all kinds of products, signs, posters, anything you can print on, basically. And these guys are all looking for different things to do. So how to use their equipment, how to expand their equipment. So it touches on a lot of topics we talked about earlier in the year, about hard goods and different things, and just getting those different things into your portfolio as a decorator and expanding your assortment and your reach. It's really cool. And more and more, the decorators really are, in our view, kind of this window to the world. We tend to kind of look at this ASI space and this promo space, but really, I think decorators are obviously play a critical role in facilitating that space, but it's really the tip of the iceberg for what the decorator community does in the market and all the things they touch. And it's super exciting for us because most decorators have customers. Most of those customers have customers of their own, and they have brands, and they have employees, they have team members. And so all these things touch apparel, touch hard goods, touch all kinds of things that decorators can expand and sell more to their customers. So it's really a unique opportunity, and we love that show. It was our second time to be there, and look forward to it again. It's really a cool conversation to have. And the other thing about decorators is these guys are really creative. They're creative, they're innovative, they're problem solvers, and it's phenomenal to have those discussions with these guys in that forum, where you're staring at all this equipment, all this machinery, all this technology, and thinking, how do we take this to market? What can we do? How much more can we do? And how can we expand what we're selling to our customers? So we love being in the middle of that. And it's really fun, really cool. So it's a great show, great event.
Well, I love hearing that. And as I was listening to you talk about that, it kind of blew my mind how intertwined the printing industry is, and how much, kind of like you were saying, there's so much working together and so many opportunities to grow and expand and explore all these cool new things. I think, one of my friends, Carlo Oviedo of Culture Studio, he said something really interesting and profound.
I know Carlo well.
Yeah.
I've
There
been on
you
one
go.
of their, I've been on their podcast too. They have a great podcast.
They do have a great podcast, don't they? And I'm glad you were able to join it because it is a really good one.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he said something really profound to me. He said when he thinks of, Printing United Expo, but trade shows in general, he said something. There are so many ways to win, and I think that was really exemplified at the show. So I was really excited to be a
It's a really
part
good
of
way
that.
to put it. It's a really well put.
Yeah, it was. And that has stuck with me very solidly throughout moving through the end of the year. And perhaps that's a good segue into the topic of our conversation. There are so many ways to win. And especially as you think about end of the year planning, going into next year, it's always hard to like future cast and plan, but there are a lot of good things decorators can do, right? So, we're already partway through Q4. So David, in your opinion, how can decorators make sure they're closing out the year with success when it comes to all of these final orders, these final things that they need to do to wrap the year?
Most of the decorators at this point, if you're going to succeed in Q4, you're already succeeding. You've got your orders lined up. You've been working ahead. We certainly encourage that even as early as August and September, getting into and saying really getting orders organized ahead of time. We all know the peak season in this space, and we're standing in it right now. I'm sure most decorators will be listening to this sometime in late November after they're done working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But so I think the key is preparation really and getting ahead of it. And we obviously encourage that on our side of it, getting out, talking to your customers ahead of time, getting those holiday plans, getting those gifting plans organized. And it's a great conversation to have. And it's a good conversation to have in the August, end of August, September timeframe, which seems kind of crazy. At least in Texas, it's super hot then, but right now it's like 50 degrees here. So, when the time comes, you need to have already had those conversations to make sure that from a capacity standpoint, and most importantly, from a delivery standpoint, you're able to deliver those things. So really, everything we do all year long is super important. It's usually event driven and activity driven. But nothing kind of more important than that holiday gift or that program that's geared towards a thank you or an appreciation during the holidays. It really loses its steam if it doesn't hit in that window. So I think really preparation is the key. So we should next time, I think, have this holiday session in September. I think it's like that's when you really want to have the holiday session is probably last of August or early September.
Yeah, well, but let's go into that then. So we're already in it. We're already totally immersed. Holiday orders are rushing in. So then what's the key to like avoiding burnout or making sure like you take it home? Because when I think about like you mentioned working 24 hours a day, it is chaos. It's crazy. It's really easy to sort of say, not throw in the towel, so to speak, but it might be really easy to say, you know what, I'm tired. I just can't do it. Like, it's too much. I'm burned out, things, blah, blah, blah. Like this order falls through the cracks, whatever. How do you, mid-season avoid that sort of challenge?
Well, I think, it's hard for one. I mean, there are peaks and during these peaks, we do put a kind of unnatural capacity or unnatural requirements on capacity that is somewhat finite in these peaks. So you do stretch it. You end up going to more hours, more shifts, more. You may run 1, 2, 3 shifts a day. May run to a 24/7. So I would say that it goes back to preparation. I think in our experience, working with our customers and watching them kind of navigate this, it does have to do with expanding your kind of human capacity during these times and being ready for that. I also think on the other side of that is acknowledging the teams and kind of the soft side of acknowledging them and bringing in lunch and bringing in dinner and bringing in things and making it more, the stress is there and the workload is there, but trying to do things that kind of ease that burden a little bit is always helpful. And trying to, kind of focus on the team during this time and find things. And like I said, just acknowledging what's going on and the throes of it and the heat of the battle. It can get a little tight and things get, emotions run high. And so I think it's important to take a step back and recognize the team is working really hard. And I also think for that team, managing the workload and managing the orders you're bringing in and keeping it in a somewhat realistic kind of framework is helpful too. But, burnout, again, I think the way you do that is you kind of we've heard a lot of innovative ideas around shift frameworks, different people come in,
Yeah.
3 days a week, work 10 hours a day, and then they're off the next four, then come in kind of just different. I mean, it's like I said, decorators are some of the most creative people I've ever been around, and they are problem solvers, and they're constantly trying to figure out, and probably, the most important asset they have is their team, are the people that are actually working the machines and working the equipment and making sure these things get done. So I think acknowledging that is just key. And then, there's just during this period of time, this crunch time, there is, you can't squeeze another 5-6 hours into the 24 we have per day. So it is what it is.
I'm wondering, what do you guys do from a supplier perspective? I mean, because it obviously is a busy time for you too, right?
Sure.
So are there any examples that you can share that, you at alphabroder practice, or things that you all do to sort of like when you're in the throes of it to sort of ease that, or any examples you can give us?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, as you guys know, we moved to we automated all of our warehouses with Locust technology, robotic technology,
Yeah.
which helps a lot. In our case, it helps a whole lot with basically managing our temporary labor. Historically, during these peak periods of time, you've got to ramp up your temp labor, and that creates its own brand of challenges, just because you're bringing this group in. So now we can literally go get more robots and bring in more robots, and that creates capacity on the floor from a picking standpoint. On the hard goods side of the business, where there's a production element involved, that again, it's kind of the same thing I was just talking about before. It's really understanding your shift dynamics and your volume dynamics, and kind of just mapping that out ahead of time and getting ahead of it, and making sure that you're planning for kind of the workload. And that sounds obvious, but it again, it's challenging to do. And as much as you try to forecast it, it can be hard. So I think for us, it's on the production side of it with hard goods, it is a lot more challenging. We certainly feel that we appreciate the pain and the challenge there. So with that, it really is just sort of blocking and tackling, shift management, capacity management, and again, acknowledging those teams and treating them really well, and being really kind and being very supportive to those guys as they are knocking this stuff out, and thanking them for it. I mean, it sounds simple, but at the end of the day, you really can't add another 4 or 5 hours to the day, and it is what it is. You've only got so much time and so much window. So it really is about kind of the blocking and tackling and making sure that works. I will say on the apparel side of it, the robotics helps us ramp up and down a lot more methodically, and again, it's very I say simple. I'm not the ops guy, but they've got a system there that allows us to dial this thing up and down, which is super helpful, and again reduces our need for that temp labor, which again I think is a real challenge, especially for the decorators of the world who really temp labor is not really an option. You have to have people who know how to operate the machinery. Right. It's super difficult, and that's what I mean. In that world, it's all about that your team that you've got there, and that your commitment to them and their commitment back to you, and everyone kind of looking at each other and saying, we got to get through this. And you run the gauntlet and make it happen. So yeah, I mean, we just try to be especially nice during these times. We're nice all the time. We love the team all the time. We're nice to the team all the time. But during these times, you really want to go that extra mile.
Right. And it really ties back to that whole topic of company culture. Have you built your company culture in such a way that when things get crazy,
that's right,
the team feels supported?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You kind of, it's kind of like, this is the Super Bowl. This is when things really matter, and they always matter. But this is when you need that team, and this is what tests culture. Cultures get tested during these times, and you can learn a whole lot about your culture and your team during these times. So I think it's great, good opportunity.
Right. So shifting gears a little bit. Okay, so obviously at this stage, I would say the vast majority of holiday orders and all that stuff have been placed. Right, we're already in the throes of it. That's not a secret. But something fun I was kind of thinking about this might be a great opportunity for decorators to throw in those last minute holiday add-ons to sort of promote that they offer these other items. Last time we had our podcast episode, we talked about adding hard goods. Mm-hmm. Maybe a decorator's at the stage right now where their customers don't yet realize that, the decorator can do the hard goods, can fulfill those promotional products orders. So this could be a great time to promote that side of a decorator's business. So talking about, some last minute favorite holiday items that you can quickly add to an order. What are some of your favorites? What do you recommend?
Well, I mean, we have a bunch of stuff on the hard goods side of our business. I mean, again, in the holiday time, it tends to be to your point. I mean, of decorators bringing in hard goods. I think this is a really good area to talk about. And again, it's probably like right now is if you're just doing it now, that could be challenging. But we actually sell a bunch of gift sets, that are, drinkware and some hats, gloves, things like that come together on the hard goods side of the business that we think they do really well during this time. And you mentioned, kitting is a huge thing, and these things come pre-kitted. But that's an opportunity decorators really have. And we actually have seen in the last year, since we've gotten kind of more with hard goods on alphabroder.com and driving them through alphabroder.com, we've seen a real big uptick in blank hard goods sales to decorators. So I think the apparel is just working. We're seeing this happen. We're seeing more and more decorators buying blank hard goods. And I think one idea would be, and again, it's not too late to do this now, is to have some drinkware products, probably the easiest from a decoration standpoint, and maybe even from a storage standpoint. Have a few of those things on hand that you can just sort of say, yeah. And most decorators have the ability, whether it's pad printing or etching, to get that onto a drinkware. And so I think it's a great idea to have a few things just sort of stored up that you could go to your customers and say, have you thought about this during this time? And it's also different than apparel. So if you're getting hammered in apparel, can you use some different machinery? That's what I would say is look at the machinery you've got and look at what's being occupied during this time and what machines are being most occupied, and therefore maybe what machines have some capacity, and then look to some hard good products, whether those are maybe even bags or a backpack or something kind of cool like that you can take, that you can use your existing machinery to decorate and add that as an offering to some of those customers who you haven't heard from yet, or that appear to be behind in the holiday spirit. We like the drink sets because, at least on our side, a lot of promotional product distributors are buying those from us, obviously for their corporate customers. But on the decorator side, some have some kitting capacity and kitting capabilities, which is great. So getting a few of those blank hard goods in there would be good to have on hand as the holiday season progresses. And some of those are a little more short lead time, like drinkware or bags that you could kind of turn easily. And again, some of these hard goods are kind of a little bit harder to decorate. But I mean, the one thing I like too during this time is to think about, if you're talking to your customers, looking at everyone kind of has the holiday window. But I think a window that's available is probably like January, like New Year, like fitness, things like that. Like, what are you doing in the new year to start the new year? And a lot of people have holiday cards, but I mean, at least in our family, a lot of family and friends, we get tons of holiday cards from people. But I actually like those people who have gone to do the New Year's card. Yeah. They don't do the holiday card, they do the New Year's card. So kind of the same thinking here. You could, think of your customers and especially ones maybe who haven't come through in the holidays, just reach out and say, hey, what are you doing for your customers for the new year? And because I think that's really a great idea. January is a pretty slow month typically in our space. We're all at these crazy shows typically, but there's an opportunity there to use that new year period of time to go out with some cool fitness stuff. I think that's a great thing. Fitness, maybe technology too, that are a little bit more progressive heading into the new year. Kind of your New Year's resolutions, things like that. I'm going to make it happen this year. Get your yoga mat, and you're all ready to go. But yeah, so I think that'd be another angle on kind of holiday, and also another way to not add more to your Q4 if you have to get it all into Q4. But why not start Q1 off, pretty strong, and take that kind of, typically we're in a pretty slow month, January, in our space. Go find some opportunity there with some couple of different categories, fitness, tech, things like that.
Yeah. And that's actually something I really wanted to talk about, because we talk about all this preparation for holidays and you got to prepare months in advance. Why not prepare in advance for the new year, for the new
Absolutely.
Q1. Like you said,
Absolutely.
it's no secret that January is a little bit slower. You kind
Yeah.
of run into a little lull. How do you best prepare for that? And I
Yeah.
think, it sounds like decorators should start. I know they're crazy busy, but they should start thinking about it now.
Pitching that now. Well, but yeah, the guys pitching this are probably not the guys running the machines. So there's plenty of room, plenty of time for you guys who have gotten all these orders in during the year, and you've got your holiday stuff stacked up. You're doing a great job. I would start looking ahead and let the team get this stuff executed and look ahead and start adding more stuff to the list for January. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. You kind of talked about looking at, from a blank perspective, thinking about like fitness gear or things like that, but maybe from like a business perspective, what are some things that decorators could be evaluating now to really kind of kickstart their new year? Like, are there any things that they should be paying attention to, processes, workflow efficiencies, things like that now that they could carry into 2024?
Yeah, well, I mean, well, sure. I mean, I think again, I think like we talked about, I think you discover lots of things during this time,
Yeah.
usually, and I think it's wise to solve the problem real time, obviously, to address near term deliverables and things like that. But taking note, if you're seeing, different pressure points in your processes, different things that are kind of things that break down that you deal with real time, but it probably isn't the pure fix. So I would be taking note of how you are performing right now during this time,
Mm-hmm.
and what can we do. Again, talking about fitness, how do you get the business more fit heading into Q1 as well? How do you start the year off from a business fitness standpoint? And thinking in terms of that, what is our run rate? How are we doing fitness wise? What's our heart rate? How are our vitals during this period of time, and how do you assess the vitals of your business heading into kind of the Q1 period? And again, for better or for worse, I mean, we do tend to kind of December and January kind of slow months, which is nice because it's hard heading into those. So, but during those times, kind of assessing, again, the vitals of the business and
Yeah.
where are their weaknesses and where are other places we could shore up. Certainly, process and production management and process management always critical. The more and more heading, and we just hear more and more about print on demand, production on demand, and so things like that. Just kind of assessing maybe where you are from a capability standpoint, and looking at your capabilities and thinking, do I need to, coming off that Print United show, do I need to add stuff? I
Yes.
can't imagine running a production shop, going to that, and like you'd be like a kid in a candy store, like what should we buy? But what are those things out there, and heading into 2024, into an industry and a space that's already kind of quantities per order already coming down, personalization's increasing, production on demand is, everyone's talking about it. It's already growing at a massive clip. So, are you going to participate there? If so, how? Kind of assessing some of those things.
Yeah. And I think a great way to do that, like you said, is evaluating at trade shows like Printing United Expo. Is there equipment here that I can add that brings new opportunities, and evaluating, are there business practices that I can tighten and things like that. So lots of questions. It sounds like the decorators should be asking themselves and then
Yeah,
answering.
for sure. No, and I think you guys again, I thought the Printing United, the initial kickoff, the kind of keynote kickoff, I thought was really interesting. Talking about the convergence, we talked about that kind of in the beginning of this, the convergence of all these different things and onto into the production world, and thinking about where do we fit with our existing product machinery, kind of portfolio. What are we missing? Anything? Are there opportunities out there? Kind of assessing that and determining, kind of what that would look like. Again, before we know it, we'll be having the same conversation about, peak periods. Again, it's spring. I mean, spring is another peak period of time. And, kind of, it's not quite as crazy as holiday or as pronounced as holiday, but, April and October tend to be the two biggest months kind of around, from a buying cycle standpoint. So, yeah, it won't be too long for you're kind of considering those same things in the spring. So now's the time to think about that.
Well, there you go. See, if any decorator out there listening needs like a big takeaway tip from this, it's that you shouldn't just prepare for holiday season. You should prepare for summer season and spring season, all these peak seasons that we have. Like, key is preparation.
Without a doubt, that is probably the key takeaway. Preparation, be prepared.
Very cool. Well, David, again, thank you so much for joining us this month on the Apparelist podcast. Where do decorators need to go to learn more about alphabroder, and what resources do you offer?
Alphabroder.com. It's all right there. Alphabroder.com. Deco Hub on alphabroder.com is a space specifically for decorators. So I would welcome everyone to go there, check it out, and give some feedback to us, ask some questions, provide some input. Please let us know. We want that to be a place where decorators can go and learn some things, ask questions, and also provide insights. It's one of our favorite things about working with decorators. The collaborative nature of decorators is really cool and really unique, and it's really neat to see. And we really love seeing how they all work together, even like a Pretty United type show, where you just see that they're all talking and they're all trying to just improve the whole thing, improve the whole deliverable, improve the product, make each other smarter, make each other better. It's really cool to see that. So Deco Hub, alphabroder.com, check it out, help make it better for us.
I could not agree more. And I myself visit Deco Hub weekly because I love seeing what decorators are up to, what they're talking about, what the hot topics are. So that's a really phenomenal resource. We've also got apparelist.com as sort of a similar resource where we are, again, let's just give decorators a voice. Y'all are on the front lines. We want to hear what you have to say. So awesome. Well, that's everything for us today, guys. Thanks, David.
You're welcome. Great to see you guys again. Thank you.